Our next two speakers need little in the way of introduction. We all know the circumstances that have brought them to this very moment, that have brought us here. We are all here today because of their son, Magnus. We're also here today because Jill and Michael somehow have the strength, while grappling with grief, to speak up and make this event happen. Please give a warm welcome to Magnus's mom and dad, Jill and Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. I've never spoken in front of this many people. I didn't have the emotional stamina to do it last year for Magnus's memorial. So forgive me now if I stumble, if I cry, even if I laugh or forget things. But I'll talk to you, and I'll also talk to Magnus about him, and sometimes directly to him. So with this, I'll start by talking a little bit about Magnus. Sorry, the breathing, I'll work on that. My sweet Magnus, you talked with a Boston accent until you were 5. You said muck for milk, geen for green, which was your favorite color and the only color you'd wear, until it became the stars and stripes you were so proud to wear for your country. To wear your Team USA gear, to wear your Team USA blue jacket, and his friends out here know how much he loved that blue Team USA jacket and his gray sweatpants. Today we gather not just in memory, but in motion. We're here for Magnus. We're here for Sarah Langenkamp, for Bill Davis, for Steve Perkins, for 13-year-old Kai, and 5-year-old Sydney Olson, for countless others, and ultimately for ourselves. I stand before you as a mother whose world was shattered in an instant. The pain of losing Magnus is indescribable. But in the sea of faces that I see, joining us here and from across the country and 20 countries in Europe, it really, I made writing the word Germany on an envelope really meant a lot. I see hope. Hope that from our collective grief, we can forge a path to change. Magnus lived each day as it was a race. He could not wait to win. His friends know that. Whether he was adventuring with friends or flying down a mountain on his bike, his eyes sparkled with that unmistakable mix of joy and determination. And that smile of his warmed you from the inside out. As I look at all of you, I'm struck by the power of community. I really am. Some of you knew Magnus, some of you didn't, but you're all here showing up in a way that speaks volumes about the human capacity for empathy and action. And that, as a mother to Magnus, gives me hope. So thank you for giving me that hope. Before I go further, Mike and I drew straws, and I won by getting to thank everyone, because that's what I do. I thank people because I love them, and I just feel their love, and I really couldn't do this without any one of you. So I get to thank those who have been instrumental to making this a reality. Pete and Bicycle of Colorado, you've been our backbone defining our policy asks, because we're new at this. I never thought I'd get emotional around a politician, but Governor Polis and Representative Nagus, who, sent us a flag for Magnus, who still sits by him, by his ashes, where we can see him every day. To Federal Highway Administrator Bott, we shared a nice bike ride together today. Again, who knew I'd be riding with a politician? But they're really real people, and it's great that they're here. So thank you for being real, and thank you for being here. And Trek President John Burke, who I was a little bit intimidated by because you're the CEO of Trek. And Magnus loved Trek, and Trek is Trek, and it's big. But your support lends power to our cause. And so thank you. And I have to say, man, we live in a beautiful city. The Flatirons, just right there, just always reminding us of the glory and graciousness of this earth. And the city of Boulder, who sponsored this event, who really stepped forward. They proposed the route. For a city to propose a route is huge if anyone's done a race or a ride. So thank you for that. To our organizing team, who was an army of a little but a lot. I mean, when I say a little, to do this event, to do it so well and organized, they're pretty incredible. That's Dan, Trini, Jenny, our ride director, who really is the most important person because it wouldn't have happened without her. Brendan, Bob Burns, who intimidated me a little bit about his boss, track president. Amy, Steve, Lisa, Michael, Magnus's coach, Gary, and so many others. Your dedication over these past 5 months, 5 months. That is so short to plan this. It was nothing short of ordinary, and I'm not going to say the word that starts with an M, but you could maybe say that. It's miracle, and it's hard to hear that when you're a mom of who's somebody who wasn't spared that miracle. Each of you has poured your heart into this, and it shows. Let me go back to Magnus now. He wasn't just a cycling star, the U.S. Junior National Champion, or the member of the U.S. national team. He was all of those, but to know Magnus, the person, my son, best friend to many in Boulder, throughout the country and world. Magnus was the kid who could put out 6.1 watts per kilogram. I stumble because I don't even know really what that means, but I think it's fast. As his mom, I've seen him race and ride, and I tried to keep up, and he's fast. So his coach would tell teammates to follow Magnus's line, the white line, when they rode and raced. It's one of the reasons we named our foundation the White Line, in memory of him, what he did, and how he got others to follow. But he was much more than his athletic prowess. He was the first to offer a friendly smile to a newcomer on the racing circuit. He was smart. He maintained a really high GPA, one that I did not have in high school. He was a trusted friend. Whether skiing, he would go skiing, going to prom. Sorry, that's one of the biggest four-wheeling in his car. Building Legos, I know, were people giving a shout out to four-wheeling in his car? Because that kind of defined him as well. Building Legos, because he loved Legos even at 17. People just loved hanging out with him. And he was just starting to see his dreams come true, getting that hard-earned spot to ride his mountain bike for Team USA at the World Championships, and the opportunity to join a professional team. Magnus loved every single day of his life with an intensity that was awe-inspiring and exhausting for me. From solving puzzles as a young child to fiercely competing in racing, he never wasted a second. And yet, off the bike, he was a friend that would hang out and goof around, seamlessly balancing competitiveness with camaraderie. After his death, we learned just how far his impact reached. So many called him their best friend, not just here, but around the world. The fact that we have riders joining us virtually from all over 50 states and 24 countries is a testament to the ripple effect of Magnus. I just want to applaud that right now. 20 countries, 50 states. And here's where it gets hard. Because to be honest, I would trade it all. Because Magnus shouldn't have died. His bright future was cut short by a preventable tragedy. And that's why we're here today, not just to remember, but to act. Some of you here today don't ride bicycles. Some of you might not have given much thought to road safety. You're here because you want your friend back, and I understand the feeling more than you can express. We want Magnus back. Here's the truth we must face. And I hate saying this, but I will. We know what killed Magnus, and we know the solutions. My husband, Magnus's father, who I've seen become torn to pieces over this, and I never in a million years would want to see that, and should anyone else, to see a father on his knees every morning I woke up to Michael crying. He'll speak more about the solutions, but I want to acknowledge why we're here. And I hate this again. It took my son being killed by a reckless driver for me to stand here today. I wish there was something like this that could have been done before he died. So I ask you, what brought you here today? Was it Magnus? Was it someone else you knew, or someone you're afraid to lose? Whatever your reason, I want you to hold on to it. Just hold on to it. Because this type of work, asking for change, isn't easy. So you gotta hold on to it. Let it fuel you, because together we can be a voice for change. We can make our roads safer for everyone. And most importantly, I thank you, every single one of you, for showing up, for caring, for being willing to turn your grief, your own grief, and our grief into action. Magnus lived his life at full throttle. I don't even know if that's a cool word anymore, full throttle. But always pushing to be better, to do more. Let's honor him and all those we've lost by doing the same. Let's ride for Magnus, and let's ride for life. And I have one more thing to say to Magnus. You were always waiting for us to come home, looking out the window, hearing the garage door open, and opening that door for us with your big smile. So I hope you're still waiting for us. that you're proud of us, and that when we see you again, you'll open the door for us, for all of us, and be proud of us and smile. I love you, Magnus.
I don't know if you guys, please up a little bit, sorry, a little taller. I don't know if you guys know how long that group of cyclists was out there today. We did the course map, so I can say it was probably somewhere between 5 and 7 miles. That is really just awe-inspiring. And so Magnus, honey, look at this, all these people. This is all for you. These are the glasses Magnus was wearing when the day he was killed. I'm wearing them today in the hope that one day I can see the world the way he saw it. My name is Michael White. I've always been better known as Magnus's dad. Thank you all for joining us here today and honoring our Magnus. It's been just over a year since our son has been killed. And no one ever thinks this will happen to them. We didn't. And then it did. Those who've had their children die know this. Those that have had their children taken from them know this. The first few months are just pure shock. Time does not exist. You don't really exist. You're just there. Once you survive those first few months, it doesn't get any easier. Time does not heal. Memories do not bring smiles. Life only gets harder the further away you get from your child. You know you have a lifetime to live, and your beautiful boy is forever 17. Since Magnus was killed, he's been talked about quite a bit. Over 2,000 news articles were written about Magnus in the first weeks after his death. Since then, there have been more than 1,300 news articles written about him. That means just under 12 billion potential eyeballs have seen his story. I think the world would respect us if we simply retreated into our grief, and a lot of times we do. Magnus, he would not. Magnus was a loving and humble human being. He did not seek the spotlight. The spotlight found him. But he was wronged, and his story has touched something deep in all of us. We have to reframe how we talk about the crime committed against our son and every other victim of road violence. This will be hard to hear. It is violent and it is undignified. We did not lose Magnus. His life was stolen. He didn't die in an accident. He did not die in a crash. He was killed when a driver struck him from behind at 60 miles per hour. His body was thrown 60 feet. Magnus died from massive head trauma. I was with him in the ER that day. When I first saw him, there was still dirt on half of his face. And there was a lot of blood. The blood wasn't from the scrapes or road rash on his face, but from the many, many skull fractures he had. My son's, my baby's, my honey's head was so swollen, he was almost unrecognizable. And that's when I knew the ending. Sanitizing what really happens to those in road violence death only contributes it to happening again and again. Nothing we will ever do will bring our Magnus back. No new laws, no new infrastructure, nothing. He is gone. Because the system we have right now failed him. It allowed a driver to get in their car when that driver was in no condition to drive. It allows a road design that encourages bad driving and bad behavior. It allows a person charged with the crime of vehicular homicide to still walk free today while waiting a trial nearly 18 months after the crime. It gives a driver's life more value than that person that driver killed. It allows violent road deaths all over the nation, most never making a headline, to be forgotten. And sadly, all that has become an acceptable part of American life. This, everything we are doing, everything we talk about, this is not for us. We did not ask for this. No one would. This is for you. We formed the White Line in December 2023 in honor of our son. Yes, Magnus's death is a big story, but the problem is so much bigger. The White Line has to be more than a tribute to Magnus. This has to be bigger than him. More than 1,100 cyclists were killed last year. Over 46,000 were injured. More than 7,500 pedestrians were killed last year. More than 67,000 injured, all by drivers. These numbers are all-time highs for cyclists and the highest level since 1981 for pedestrians. We know any one of these injuries could be death. A split second here, a split second there is a difference between living and dying. If Magnus was just 1/4 of a second faster or slower, nearing the end of his 75-mile ride that day, he would be here, and none of this would be happening. Our mission to preserve and honor the legacy of our son Magnus White, using his memory to inspire cyclists around the world and pay tribute to lives taken too soon. We are dedicated to advocating for the safety of all vulnerable road users and to be a new voice towards creating safer road environments. Our initiatives, immediate and quick improvements to vulnerable road user infrastructure, increasing penalties for careless and reckless driving resulting in death or serious injury, and our Lives Worth Remembering film series. We know Magnus' story is told. The world knows it. Other people's stories deserve to be told too, and we wish we could tell them all. We've already filmed and released 2 episodes. The first is about Christian and Michelle Deaton, husband and wife, who were killed in Napa, California. The second is about Michael Shipp, who was killed cycling in Manning, South Carolina. His children, Ariana and Elijah Shipp, joined us today riding. You can watch these episodes on our website. You all came today. You all came here today. You flew here. You drove here. You rode your bikes here. You walked here. All of it on our roads. You are here because you demand change. We are the new voice for change. By being here, you are joining us as the new voices for change. We need every single one of your voices. To our leaders and representatives, local, state, and national, we are speaking to you. We are here as one voice. If we change nothing after all of this, then we have all failed. Today, we are introducing 3 legislative asks. One on the local level, one on the state level, and one on the national level. Our local ask: we need to fast track the US 36 protected bike lane from Boulder to Lyons. This is the busiest cycling route in Colorado. 90,000 cyclists a year ride this. We are pushing this to be complete by 2029. 5 years, not 16 years like the road Magnus was killed on. It is outrageous. It is immoral, the time it takes to build traffic safety infrastructure in Colorado. That's why we are calling for our officials to accelerate the installation of traffic safety and active transportation infrastructure. Our state ask: we are asking for new legislation to increase penalties for careless and reckless driving, resulting in death in Colorado. There needs to be accountability. We don't want to put more people in jail. We see it as a deterrent. The threat of severe penalties will force people to drive more responsibly. What's the difference between careless and reckless driving? Careless driving involves negligence and a lack of attention. Reckless driving is more serious and involves a conscious disregard for the risks. In my opinion, a lot of those times, those are one and the same. Careless driving that results in death is a Class 1 misdemeanor traffic offense. I repeat, traffic offense. Penalties can include 10 days to 1 year in county jail, a fine up to $1,000. And this is new thanks to Bicycle Colorado, a 12-point offense on your driving record, which may result in a 1-year suspension of your driving privileges. It used to be just a 4-point offense. Look at some recent cases in Colorado. A 13-year-old boy killed riding his bike on the way to school just a block away. A 13-year-old boy killed on a one-wheel at a crosswalk on his way to school. A 10-year-old boy killed riding his bike in his neighborhood. This morning, I just received an email from his mother. All of these drivers are charged with careless driving. One case has already been resolved, 0 days in jail, a $1,000 fine, and community service. There are 2 families awaiting trial. Sadly, we already know the outcome. Reckless driving resulting in death in Colorado is a Class 4 felony of vehicular homicide. Sentencing guidelines include 2 to 6 years of non-mandatory prison time and a $2,000 to $500,000 fine. If the driver was DUI, it's elevated to a Class 3 felony. 4 to 12 years non-mandatory prison time, plus a fine up to $750,000. Here's some other class 4 felonies in Colorado with the same sentencing guidelines as vehicular homicide. These might make you angry. Theft of property, second-degree criminal trespass, forgery, fraud by check, indecent exposure, violation of bail bond conditions, and tampering with a utility meter to lower your utility bill. You heard the term non-mandatory jail time in the sentencing guidelines. What does that mean? Simple. It's not mandatory. A judge can sentence a driver to just probation and not spend a single night in jail. That could very well happen in the case against a driver who killed our Magnus. Misdemeanor DUI, getting pulled over for driving under the influence, carries more mandatory jail time than felony vehicular homicide and felony vehicular homicide with DUI in the state of Colorado. Earmuffs. What the? In Colorado, we are beginning to see this problem. In 2024, Governor Polis signed into law House Bill 1135, which requires a Transportation Legislative Review Committee to study the issue of careless driving resulting in death and whether civil and criminal charges are adequate. This statute requires the Transportation Legislative Review Committee to complete this work during the 2024 interim session. On August 16th, this Friday coming up, the committee has this on their agenda. I will be there presenting to them to take this cause up. We expect them to look at this and take this matter seriously. Our national ask. Current federal policy requires that new vehicles have automatic emergency braking systems, AEB, to stop and avoid contact with a vehicle or person in front of them. Bicycles and motorcycles are excluded. The U.S. Congress must direct the U.S. Department of Transportation to issue a new rule regarding automatic emergency braking systems to protect all people, and that this technology be installed on all new cars and light trucks starting in 2029. AEB for cyclists could prevent an estimated 52% of fatal crashes between cyclists and cars. But we do not have this yet. Why? The National Highway Transit Safety Board under the Department of Transportation said is because doing testing for the efficacy of such a system is technically more challenging. That is not good enough. Europeans had this technology in their testing, and it hasn't kept many car manufacturers from already including bike-sensitive AEB systems in their cars. So we want to have Congress pass a law requiring the Department of Transportation to include a requirement for bicyclists and motorcyclists AEB in new cars. So what can you do about this? By coming here today, you are sending a message to our legislators and to Americans around the country. We are all here as a new voice for change. I ask you to do 3 simple things. Please go to thewhiteline.org or to bicyclecolorado.org. There are signs with QR codes around here. You can scan that QR code right now. There's some people holding some up if you look around. We are set up right now so you can send letters supporting our local, state, and national asks. Do one or do all 3. These letters will go to your local and national officials. It is easy and will only take you a minute. Share it with all you know. Support your favorite organizations supporting this cause. Support the White Line, support organizations that help pull this all together. Bicycle Colorado, it could be me, People for Bikes, and others. All of us need your support. Lastly, continue to ride your bike, walk, use this infrastructure for what we are asking for. There's no other way to advocate for the need of safe biking and walking infrastructure than to be out there showing how important it is. I think today we sent a clear message. I leave you with this. Shortly after Magnus was killed, I came across a poem from the late Dylan Thomas. It is written from a son to his dying father. The most important and most poignant lines in the poem are the last two. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. I'd like to believe that these are Magnus's message to me, and I hope they can be my message to you. I'm Magnus's dad. I will always be Magnus's dad. I ask you, please, don't let him die for nothing. Thank you for riding with us today, and thank you for honoring our Magnus.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Michael. Just take a deep breath and let that message and that emotion sink in for a few seconds.